Today we have Ritesh Srivastav, who is the founder of Freed, a debt relief platform that aims to create a debt-free future for Indian millennials.
2.4 lakh crore in credit card outstanding, 5 lakhs in debt per individual borrower with an average income of 40,000 a month. By the value, we were seeing personal loans at 60%, by the volume, credit cards at around 40%. We're seeing 95% employed borrowers, typically come in the age group of 28 to 32.
In this episode, we dive deep into 3 core insights into how Ritesh built his mega startup that is now worth 400 crores.
I've had growing up a couple of places, largely. Early days was Calcutta, where I went to Don Bosco. And then adolescence, 14, 15 years, I was in Gujarat. From the childhood days, sales especially excited me because I think the ability to influence people, the ability to sell something was something that always intrigued me.
When did that startup ka keeda bite you? And what were you doing before?
I've been an entrepreneur for over 2 decades. My journey began in the US. I used to live in the Silicon Valley. And it was right around 2002-3, where I got into subprime loan origination, right? And this was right after the dot-com bust in 2000. Very fascinating space. And planned my move to India right around 7-8. And little did I know that after moving to India, we will see a subprime collapse that happened in the US with the Lehman crash. And that was the time, immediately overnight, we had to switch. We had to kind of, it was more of a survival thing for us. We got into debt relief as an industry in the US back in 2008-9, right? So my journey to debt relief has been for 15 years almost now. And then fast forward 2018, owned and operated 2 large debt relief platforms in the US, did over $2 billion in consumer debt enrolled and settled. I was very fascinated by the growth in Indian consumption space, especially in the luxury and premium sector, until COVID hit. And that's when I started looking at opportunity and I was on to already my next venture, which was Freed, right? Freed was founded right in the first lockdown. A lot of time I had to research, speaking with consumers who were over-leveraged in debt, speaking with bankers, speaking with lawmakers, understanding this space. And with the growing, reliance on credit, personal loans, even back then in 20, I knew that there would be a need for relief. There would be a need for consumers to kind of, get a second chance, the ones who kind of, go paycheck to paycheck or fall in that trap. So user insight largely was the fact that there is an over-reliance of credit, lack of financial literacy among consumers, among borrowers, right? Consumption growing backed by credit. So, the stage was set. I could see the need for it. The need for a debt relief platform was, very evident, especially COVID-induced hardship that happened back then, because there were many consumers going through financial hardship back then, right after COVID. But I knew that this problem would be just not limited to COVID because the over-reliance on credit was there to stay. I could see that. So it was a good time to launch and build, and especially a category that didn't exist in India. Freed, because it stands for freedom, stands for liberty, it stands for freedom from debt. So that was the reason behind Freed. When talking to potential borrowers, potential consumers who are in a trap, or struggling with debt, right? The question that you want to ask them is, how would you feel if you didn't have a debt? How would you feel to be debt-free? What would you spend your very hard-earned money on if you didn't have this overburdening EMI on your head, right? And you see a smile on people's face. And that feeling, to be able to relate with that feeling, is priceless.
To solve this, Ritesh understood 2 core types of users who fall into the debt trap. But before we get into that, just like all other founders and leaders out there, I'm sure Ritesh also faced the painful problem of building a solid growth team that helped him build a 200 crore business. See, after speaking to hundreds of founders and leaders, we realized that they struggle to hire. They want guidance and they have absolutely no structure to build a solid team, which is why we have built the craft of building growth teams. Over the course of this craft, you'll learn how to solve the 5 biggest problems founders and leaders face, starting with how to attract bar-raiser growth talent. Second, you learn how to prioritize whom to hire and never overhire again. You'll get a playbook to filter talent that actually performs on the job and not just in the interviews. You'll solve for motivation by ensuring they compound with a rigorously validated learning roadmap and much more. This craft is built by Udayan Valvekar, the co-founder of GrowthX with a decade's experience in leading growth teams across industries from the seed stage to Series F. He built the first product growth team at Razorpay and has helped hundreds of founders and leaders inside GrowthX to build their growth functions. The link to this craft is in the description and it's part of the GrowthX membership. Alright, back to Ritesh's story.
let's understand what are bad loans, what is a bad debt.
There are two segments of borrowers, right, where debt is becoming bad. One where you have already gone behind on your payments. You're already behind. You're already catching up, struggling to even make your EMIs, right? And the other one is where you're not there yet, but you know that hit with one hardship or one bad news, you're going to go there. And these are these paycheck to paycheck borrowers, right? So while we started at Freed solving for a difficult problem, which is for these consumers who are already delinquent, we started to see many consumers coming in saying, if we are not offered help now, we will go into that trap. So we simultaneously started building for preventive stage of borrowers as well, who, if not offered help, will go into that situation. So immediately, after launching Freed, within a year, I had to start building for the entire spectrum.
What is that one most common type of debt you have seen?
By the value, we were seeing personal loans at 60%. By the volume, credit cards at around 40% in the volume. But now, what is surprising is we're seeing credit cards grow by the value and the volume both, which is a little alarming because the highest interest rate is on the credit cards. The other thing that we are also noticing is the loan stack. So multiple small ticket size personal loans. Because if you look at the journey of a borrower or psychology of a borrower who is in debt, right, that's very important to understand, right? Our average borrower who comes on the platform to, enroll himself, right, has 5 lakhs in debt. It's no small chunk. 5 lakhs in debt per individual borrower with an average income of 40,000 a month. That's a stretch to begin with, right? But how does the journey begin, right? Now you can imagine that somebody who can afford or who has a credit line of 5 lakhs and that he has defaulted into, right? At some point in time must have a good credit score. So his journey typically starts with a top tier personal loan from a bank, from a private bank or a public sector bank, credit cards, and then going middle of the pyramid lender to a NBFC, and then coming bottom of the pyramid with these app loans and BNPLs and things like that. And finally is loan stacking, catching up, taking smaller loans to either go from month to month or just to repay his EMIs until this poor guy is back against the wall and he's kicked the can long enough and can't do it anymore.
How do you come into this whole picture? Do you directly talk to the bank? Do you talk to the collector? How do you operate it? I want to understand the operation part of the business.
As a debt relief platform, your basic service or the idea is to provide relief to these debt burden borrowers, right? And relief cannot be pushed. Relief has to be sought. So we are a pull platform. Anybody seeking relief is the one approaching us. So one of the biggest problems in this post-lending landscape when it comes to collections or whatever, right, is you don't know the intent of the borrower or the capacity of the borrower to pay. At Freed, very, very sure that anybody coming to the platform at least has the intent to resolve his debt. Second, we ascertain the capacity of this guy to be able to repay the debt. Nobody wants debt. I want to get rid of my debt as well, but do I have the ability to? Because at Freed, we don't have a magic wand to, disappear your debt, right? You have to have income. You have to have some sort of affordability to be able to set aside towards your debt relief goals. And that's what we do, right? It's a self-save, intent-driven platform largely. So once you've enrolled in the program, once we've ascertained your ability to be able to resolve your debt with your creditors, with your lenders, question is about financially disciplining them, walking them, or rather, hand-holding them through this very difficult journey of their life, right? Of 18 months, 12 months, 24 months, whatever the duration may be for this borrower, to ensure that he's saving every month towards this debt relief goal. And once the savings are built up, we are resolving the debt with the lenders.
How does Freed earn money and how do you make things happen?
We charge a flat fee to the borrower once they enroll in the platform. And typically then there is a 10% fee to 15% fee that we charge, but only after we have resolved the debt for the borrower. And then a flat fee only after we have resolved the debt for him. So business model wise, it is performance-led fee structure. Lenders are happy to resolve with us because what is the collection efficiency on loans that go bad? 15%. 85% never get collected. Freed is able to resolve these bad debts as high as 45% with the lenders. So the lenders have a 3 times more take rate or more efficiency that they're able to get through Freed.
The consumer lending market opportunity. How big is this market currently?
2.4 lakh crore in credit card outstanding. Roughly 16 or 15 lakh crores that lies into personal loans, right? Which are the small ticket size personal loans, consumer goods, loans of other formats, unsecured lending, credit lines, and all that. So the market is right around 210, $15 billion. And the rate at which it's growing is more concerning. The last few years, it has been growing at a 20% annually, right? In 3 years or 3.5 years, it's going to be doubling. So this $200 billion becomes $400 billion. And like I said, the growth in unsecured lending is little more concerning given the fact that these loans are laden with high interest rates, typically with the low maturity periods, right?
Who are your users if you have to define them?
We're seeing 95% employed borrowers typically come in the age group of 28 to 32. With their average age right around 29. Very young millennial, very young Gen Z, in the very beginning of his borrowing journey, so to say. And of course, then there are these mid 30s and late 30s and early 40s borrowers as well, who have not gone crazy in overspending and all, but just life happened to them. Somebody took a loan, right, and the business didn't work out. Or a huge medical loan that somebody took, right, and is unable to repay.
What is the total number of loan amount that you have settled till now?
We're touching close to 150 to 170 crores in debt resolved on the platform already. As far as the consumers go, right, roughly 35,000 plus customers have enrolled on the platform already. And in terms of the total loans or total portfolio that has been enrolled on Freed and that we are managed, right, is almost 1,250 crores. Just over the last 3 months, we have grown almost 50% month on month in terms of debt that is being enrolled on the platform. It's okay to seek help if you're in trouble, if you're in debt, but just with the stigma of having a bad debt is not going to help, right? So be open to talk about your problems as well. Everyone deserves a second chance, and so long as you have the resolve and the intention to come out of it.